Joining me now, Senator Kevin Cramer from the great state of North Dakota. Senator Cramer, welcome back, sir. And a simple question right at the top. I'm sure you read the op-ed piece with great interest. Did you see anything different? Is there any change? Is there any reset in his policies?
One of the biggest confusions to me, frankly, Larry, is that every time Joe Biden is proven wrong, instead of changing course, he doubles down on dumb. And that's what the op-ed was. It's blame everybody else. Talk about what a difficult situation he inherited. And by the way, he inherited a good situation compared to the one that that Donald Trump was given, because he benefited from, first of all, a strong foundation built by Donald Trump and Republicans in the Senate and the House that passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which is why we had this robust growth going into the pandemic. And clearly the pandemic, created a problem. But we were already coming out of it with a robust economy, a booming economy, and instead of just slowing down and accepting the handoff, he doubled down on dumb, passed the American Rescue Plan, put $2 trillion worth of fuel on an already booming economy, and talked about a whole bunch more stimulus, all the while adding regulations, and now wants to add taxes. So, no, there was nothing new in the piece. It was just more of the same old, same old.
On that point, just for a moment, it annoyed me, but I'm accustomed to the Biden, I call them Biden mean falsehoods, not Iowa nice, not North Dakota nice. This is Biden mean falsehoods, that the recovery was faltering, quote unquote. So I went back and looked at the numbers. Fourth quarter of 2020 was 4.5% growth. First quarter of 2021 was 6.5% growth. So there was no faltering. In fact, that's why guys like Larry Summers and others said we don't need any extra stimmy because you're already growing fast enough, and this would be so-called overheating. But, if you're worried about gasoline prices, if you're worried about $120 world price of oil today, Brent crude, wouldn't you want to produce more oil and gas? I didn't see that.
For sure, you didn't see that because, as you know, Joe Biden and all of the weirdos around him, they worship at the altar of climatology. It is such an existential threat in their bizarre religion that all things have to come back to that. And the reality is they're going to destroy America's excellence and our booming economy. And by the way, the world is crying out for the very things that America produces and can produce. And instead of sending the signals to the producer, produce more of it, which will not only bring down the price, but it'll secure us geopolitically in many places where we can use some friends and could use some trading partners, places like Europe. And so I don't understand any of it, Larry. I just don't see how they can be missing what's obvious, other than they're so hung up on climate change that they can't see the great damage that they're doing to our economy and, frankly, to national and geopolitical security.
Well, I think they do. I think they want a fossil-free economy, which would be a catastrophe. This is just right now. It's funny. This article comes out just in the past, 24, 48 hours. The European Union said it's going to cut off at least 2/3 of its oil and gas purchases from Russia. Now, I would think that America could come to the rescue, Senator Cramer, but it doesn't appear that Joe Biden's America wants to.
There's no question. When you talked about those statistics, the end of 2020 into the first quarter of 2021, remember inflation when Joe Biden became president was 1.4%. It's now 8.3%. And with, frankly, I don't know where the end is. I don't know if there is an end in sight, but it's very concerning. And now, as you and Sandra, and by the way, that Sandra Smith, I was sitting there watching her going, my gosh, I wonder if the woman can handle 2 shows, because she was really good. She made all of the relevant points, and she's always really good. Yep. But she was on fire and makes all of the relevant points. These things matter. Who's in the White House matters. Who are the economic advisors matters. And I'm right after I get done with this show, Jay Powell and I are going to have a phone conversation because he asked to talk to me. And I'm looking forward to hearing his ideas on how increasing the rate and shrinking the money supply, which I wish they would have started a long time ago. I was in the Larry Summers camp a long time ago when they could have done modest rate increases and prevented this disaster that's now a crisis. But see how that is going to help inflation at the moment of crisis. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I'm concerned.
Well, basically, the op-ed piece today says it's going to be pain-free, but it's not going to be pain-free.
Yeah.
I think they're preparing us. Let me just ask you, switch gears then in our last minute, Senator. Mm-hmm. You were part of a very eloquent letter pleading with the Biden administration to keep the $350 billion or so tariffs on China. They're apparently a debate for a variety of reasons. Don't reward them for their tyrannical attacks. No democracy. And, of course, they're not keeping up with the trade deal. There's still no reciprocity. How do you read that? I mean, that was a great letter. It's something we're going to focus on a lot this week on the show. I couldn't agree with you more. How do you read that? Do you think that realistically the Bidens would remove tariffs from China at this moment in time, rewarding them for helping Russia, for example, or, genocide with the Uyghurs or ending democracy in Hong Kong? How do you read it?
Yeah, one would think they wouldn't, but when you look at the signatures on this letter, there weren't a lot of us, but we were diverse. So everybody from Rick Scott from Florida to Elizabeth Warren, Bob Casey from Pennsylvania to Rob Portman and radicals like me are on this letter. So it's a pretty broad swath. Hopefully it provides some air cover to the administration so that they do not lift these tariffs. These 301 tariffs are one of the few tools that we have left. It's one of the smart things that carried over from the Trump administration to the Biden administration, but they have been talking about possibly lifting them. It's the only leverage we have right now on China, and we need to use it and much more. I agree with your friend and mine, Bob Lighthizer, when he says that we need a strategic decoupling with China if we want to get serious about changing their behavior. And we ought to be doing more business with people we know and love and share our values, like Europe, which it gets back to the start of the show, and that is producing more oil and gas and the things that Europe needs from us.
All right. This is no time to take those Chinese tariffs away, whether it's not trade, economy, national security, anti-democratic activities. You're right. All right, Senator Cramer, we appreciate it, sir, as always.